2 cannon shots fired in the night sky. Alec, still holding the staff he collected from the cornucopia, did the math. Unless they do something about it, these games are going to finish in the next couple of days, and BK will have won. The clock was ticking on them. The evidence of threats that Alec still possessed meant BK was trying to expedite the ending of these games. At that point, however, wouldn't BK manipulate who remains? That's what Alec thought, at least. If BK wasn't letting the games play out on their own, why not eliminate the biggest threats in the game, like Kenzie or himself even? Alec had made his intentions very clear. He even threatened BK himself. Why wouldn't BK take care of the mess once and for all? Alec was alone all day, so he had plenty of time to think. BK knows we're a ticking time bomb. All BK needed to do was give us a little more motivation to do his work for him. The more Alec thought about it, the more he wondered if teaming up was actually their best bet. Maybe, just maybe, winning these games the way they were meant to be played and won is the best way to get to BK. Hey, Alec, just in time. Connor interrupted Alec's train of thought as he had returned to the campsite. I found some friends. Wow, you're not kidding, Alex said. Lucy, Tracy, and LB were all at the campsite with Connor. Were these all your finds? Yeah, I haven't seen Tegan yet, so either he's still looking or, dead. There's 5 of us here. That means there are 2 people remaining out there. It could be Tegan, Cullen. Actually, I had to kill Cullen earlier. Lucy interrupted Alec. He was one of the cannon shots a few moments ago. Okay, Alec continued. That means 2 of Tegan, Debbie, and Kenzie are alive. My money's not on Debbie, Shrista added. We can work with this, Alex said. That's the spirit, Connor exclaimed. So what info do you have for us, Alec? LB said extremely awkwardly. You can cut the tension at the camp with a knife, but Alec decided to wait to address the elephant in the room. Well, in the woods. I went to the restock cornucopia, Alex said as he dropped the staff in his backpack full of supplies. They still have a ton of stuff there. None of you have gone there yourselves. Everyone shook their heads. I was too afraid to go, Shresta commented. Therefore, we can make another trip to the cornucopia to gather more materials and supplies later. That's not the big news, though, Alex said, specifically looking at LB, knowing his blackmail picture was still in his pocket. While I was there were memories from all the tributes, dead and alive. On the memories were some incriminating things that we can use against BK when we get out. How incriminating? Asked Connor. Alec hesitated, but he eventually pulled out the picture of LB and his sisters. One of his sisters was crossed out. Without reading the note, you would think she had been killed. However, Alec believed that was the sister that was no longer in danger. The other sister, which was along the right side of the picture encircled, seemed to be the one still in danger. This is a picture of LB and his sisters. I originally found it within a picture frame. However, the frame wasn't completely closed. I was suspicious, so I opened the frame and saw this note on the back and read, and I quote, "One sister save, who will you kill to save the other?" Alec, along with the rest of the camp, stared down at LB. All LB could do was look down in stress, anxiety, and despair. This note was directed at LB, blackmailing him to kill someone within the arena to keep his sisters alive. But considering the look that I see on his face right now, my guess is he already knew about that, which would explain leaving Jess to die in the storm, wouldn't it, LB? He nodded subtly. He wished nobody had found out about it. LB, why didn't you tell anybody? Alec asked. Because they said they would die if I told anyone. And now they're both going to die because you all now know. No, they won't, Alex said. Why not? Lucy questioned. Because I spoke with BK at the cornucopia. Wait, you did what? Connor yelled. Sort of. I talked to him in front of him, just not with him. I found a camera, a very well, but not that well camera, hidden camera, keeping an eye on the cornucopia. I said my piece, destroyed the camera, and worked my way back here. Alec, what were you thinking? You could get us killed. We're going to die anyway, Connor. We have royally messed up his plans, and he's manipulated the game to get this back on his terms. The acid storm, the blackmails, the restocking to check in on us. Guys, don't you get it? In 2 days, all but one of us will be dead unless we stick together and come up with a plan to stop him. The best way to do that is to not play the game the way he wants us to play. While we are threatening his reign and forcing him into action, he still wants these games. He still wants to keep these games somewhat authentic. Sure, he's done some things to lead people to their death, but he's not the one stepping in here and pulling the damn trigger. We have to find a way to stop this, to stop him and force his hand so we get him to come after us. Well, what do you suggest then? Connor said after a lengthy pause. We should stick together as a team, but since we're running out of time, we need to divide and conquer. Shrestha, you look for missing people. Whoever you can find, bring them to camp. Kenzie and Debbie will listen to you, and Tegan knows we're here. LB and I will go back to the cornucopia to fetch some more materials and scout out the area so I can make a more definitive escape plan. Connor and Lucy, you stay here and watch the camp. You two are our command center. Shrestha, come back here after a few hours and let one of them take your spot looking for the others. If LB and I aren't back by sunset, you all regroup and go to the cornucopia. Sunset? It's not even sunrise yet. You need that much time? Lucy said, puzzled. Just trust me. Why should we? Shrestha asked. Because I could have escaped from here if I wanted to. I found a way out, but I came back because I was determined to take down BK together, Alec explained. He neither hesitated nor stuttered. Connor nodded his head in agreement. See you at sunset. Alec took his backpack and LB followed him back the way he came. Shrestha wandered the other way to look for the remaining survivors. Connor and Lucy took some of the supplies Alec had brought and started cooking some food and building a nice shelter. Whether or not they would survive this was still a mystery to Alec, but one thing was for certain. This was the home stretch. BK looked at himself in the mirror. He had splashed his face with water a few times just to keep himself awake. He hadn't slept in a couple of days, and it had been weeks since he slept well, or he was either too eager to begin the games or too anxious about the events unfolding inside the arena. He knew he needed to get some much needed and much earned sleep, but he didn't feel comfortable leaving the booth quite yet. He trusted Ricardo and he trusted his staff, but he just had that uneasy feeling. Maybe he didn't trust himself. Maybe he didn't trust the remaining 7. He didn't know. But BK knew if he stayed awake and he needed to make an executive decision, things would only get worse. Seriously, sir, go get some sleep. I can run point in the meantime, Ricardo insisted. You desperately need the rest. I don't know, something may happen and you need my counsel, BK hesitated. Sir, if anything super important happens, I promise I will wake you up immediately. But nothing is going to happen for hours. But if nothing's going to happen for hours, you might as well take the opportunity and get some rest. Get some sleep. BK nodded. Yeah, you're right, Ricardo. You run point, you assign assistance however you please. Thank you, sir. Trust me, you will be better in the long run. BK began slowly walking towards his sleeping quarters. It had been so long since he had laid down in that bed. It felt like a soft marshmallow compared to the different chairs he had been accustomed to the last few days. As he turned off the lights and putting on his sleeping blindfold, he thought about the games up to this point. 17 of the 24 participants had died, and it had only been a week. BK thought those were solid numbers and percentages, but he knew this issue couldn't be calculated from a computer. He never anticipated there to be any significant threat when he chose this lineup of participants, but he knew this was a very creative group. After all, some of the greatest 942 memories, ideas, traditions, and experiences came from that group of 24. It was a shame that it had to come down to this point. Some nights it felt like he just threw it all away. But deep down, he knew that this timeline of events was for the greater good. Sure, it may have been his greater good, but when you get to be in the position of power that BK was in, you have to be a bit selfish. BK smiled and he closed his eyes. Ricardo, his trusty assistant, someone who always had his back, was more than capable to cover for him for a few hours. The only issues he had were theoretical and hypothetical. A lot needed to happen for things to get real bad. And if that becomes the case, He will have been refreshed for the and ready for the final stretch. Who knows? He thought maybe half the people die in the time I wait. By the time I wake up, he hoped that would be the case as he slowly drifted off to sleep. Kenzie had been all alone since the storm. She hadn't seen or heard anyone in hours. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that it was probably days since the storm. She was hungry, she was tired, and she desperately wanted to go home. The easiest way to go home was to kill 6 more people, but that didn't seem like the best idea. Suddenly, she heard some leaves rustle. She quickly turned towards the noise. Kenzie could feel her heartbeat increase in speed. The noises were getting louder. Sweating was beginning to pour down her in front of her face. I'm not going to die like this, she insisted. She closed her eyes, preparing for the worst, when a small bunny exited a nearby bush and hopped away. Kenzie relaxed inside. I'm going freaking insane here. I'm going batshit crazy. Then there was another noise. This one was further away, but significantly bigger than the bunny. Now, that one has to be a person, right? Kenzie would have admitted that it was just more mind games she was playing on herself, but the noises never went away. Kenzie needed to figure out what it was to ease her mind, so she followed the noise. Many things went through her head. A person, a large bird, a made-up animal that's a cross between a cheetah and a gorilla that can fly and fire lasers from its eyes. No, that one seemed very unlikely, but this was BK we were talking about here, so nothing's off the table. She heard the noise again. She knew she was close. As she kept closer, she could hear the noise coming from above her, like from the top of the trees. Oh God, it's a flying gorita. Gorita? Chirilla? Now she knew she was going insane. She can only think about what to call a cheetah gorilla hybrid rather than figuring out what was really making that noise. Ricardo stood in the booth watching Kenzie's screen. Was she doing anything particularly interesting? No. She was just staring at the top of a tree, but he could tell something juicy was about to happen. Hey, Alan? Yes? You're running the cannons, right? That would be correct, yes. Couldn't you fiddle with settings during the middle of the game? Alan looked like Ricardo confused. Yeah, I guess I could. Why do you ask? I want to make a change. No, you said you would make the decisions up to BK. Relax, Alan. This won't affect the end result of the game in the slightest. Really? Then why change the settings? To see what reaction we get out of players. If this goes like I think it will, this may expedite the end of this game just like BK wants. And more importantly, legally. I was not convinced. But Ricardo was the boss at the moment, so he went on ahead. What would you like, Ricardo? Change the cannon shots to right as people die instead of a set time. Alan stared at Ricardo. All right, fine, but I don't like this. And if things go wrong, I will report you to BK. Would you quit yapping and hit the button, please? Alan rolled his eyes, flipped a few switches, and hit the save button. There. Now what? Now, Ricardo said. We watch. Alec and LB had made some good progress getting back to the cornucopia, but they still had a ways to go. How do you think they're holding up back at camp? LB asked. Who knows? That's not our problem to worry about, Alex said. What do you mean? Why not? Don't we need them to get out of here? I don't trust them as far as I could throw them, LB. That's why I took you with me to the cornucopia. If things went south over there, we would be out of the crosshairs. I don't understand. Doesn't that contradict everything you've been telling us? Yes, but contradicting myself doesn't matter when I'm working with murderers. Alec realized it was a poor choice of words. He could see the pain he could see the pain LB was still in. Look, Alec, I'm sorry, okay? I panicked. I didn't think that I had any other choice. The rain was falling and I didn't want to die, and I figured that would qualify as a kill to save my sisters. LB tried to stay, fighting back tears. You are not a murderer. Neither am I. Neither is Tegan, nor Connor, nor Lucy. I killed Jess. Tegan killed Seb. Lucy killed Colin. And Connor killed like 3 people. No, BK killed those people. Once we were put in there, BK killed 23 people. None of this is any of our faults, okay? What I meant is the people that are behind this are murderers. But they've implanted the thought that only one of us can get out of here alive. And if we want to make sure The people we care about on the outside don't get harmed. We have to kill here on the inside. I don't trust those guys because who knows what's going on in their heads. Clearly blackmail is on the table. So who else knows? So who knows what else is going on? I guess, LB mumbled. We are going to get out of this. Do you hear me? We are, Alec demanded. Yeah, I do. Good. Now let's continue heading to the. Alec stopped in his tracks. You heard that, right? Please tell me you heard that. Yeah, I heard that. What was that? Connor shouted. The camp was going strong. The fire was large and hot, keeping them warm and lit up. There was plenty of food and warm, dry clothes for anyone who needed it. The shelter was almost complete, but they got distracted. I don't know, but it sounded like it was coming from the direction where Shrestha left the camp, Lucy yelled. She told me she was going to get higher ground and look for people. Gee, so was that her screaming? Lucy was about to speak until she heard a shrieking noise. No, she yelled, but that was. Jesus Christ, save us all, Connor mumbled. Here, grab a weapon and let's go. Connor sprinted towards Lucy. He laid down several weapons for Lucy to choose from. She thought about choosing the staff Alec left as it was close to a spear, but she decided with the machete, naturally. As the two of them were running, they heard a sponsor drop floating down towards their destination. Connor, Lucy screamed, there's a drop. Pick it up. I'm going to go check on Shrestha, Connor yelled, never breaking stride. Lucy bounced up and down, hoping it would drop faster, hoping the drop would fall faster. She was on an extremely tight schedule. Her allies, her way out could be in danger. She impatiently jumped up and grabbed it from the air. She struggled opening it as she was in a blind panic. Eventually, she got it open. In it was a note. Weird, she thought. It seemed too heavy to just contain a note. She quickly grabbed the note and read it. This request is simple. Kill him or we kill her. Lucy frantically flipped over the note to see a picture of her niece surrounded by a bunch of men. Lucy dropped the note out of fear. No way did they get her, did they? As she went to pick up the note, she noticed something attached to the outside of the drop. She picked up what seemed to be a brick of clay, but as she examined it, it hit her. C4? But why? She questioned. Why did BK want her to blow Connor up? And why was her niece's life at stake? These were the questions that could be answered later. Now, she only had one thing on her mind. Kill Connor. And kill him at any cost. The noises were getting significantly louder and from many different places. Kenzie still convinced herself it was her mind, but she kept looking up to find the right tree. Then she heard a noise that sounded different. It's not just any noise. That's Shrestha. Kenzie recognized the voice on the screen as she began running towards the screen. Shrestha! Kenzie yelled, hoping she could hear her yells. Shrestha, where are you? Kenzie! Shrestha! I'm over here, help me. I'm coming. Kenzie was trying the best she could, but there was so many tall trees, she couldn't tell which one of the screams were coming from. Shrestha, I can't see you. I'm here. I'm right here. I hear you, Shrestha, Connor shouted. Shrestha was obviously in danger. Lucy, hurry up. We've got to go. We got to go now. I'm coming, Lucy panted. There was so much going through her head at the moment. She needed to refocus. The best thing she could do in the moment was follow the screams. What in the hell is going on? LB questioned. I can hear faint yelling and screaming. Yeah, me too, but I can't fucking see anything, Alex said, exasperated. Is this bad? This seems bad. Oh yeah, this is bad, Alex explained, but I'm just hoping this doesn't become catastrophic. Shrestha, where are you? I still can't see you, Kenzie continued to yell. She knew if there weren't so many damn trees in the way, she'd be able to see her. I'm here, but I think Kenzie, Connor, Lucy, where's Shrestha? Lucy asked. I'm up here. Where's here? Connor shouted. Somewhere up there. Kenzie pointed up towards the sky. How can we help? I think, come on, Shrestha struggled. Shrestha, I got it. Oh my God, I'm okay. I'm safely on the branch. Okay, great. Now get the hell back down here, Lucy yelled. Coming. Shrestha began maneuvering down the tree when suddenly she heard a crack. What was that? Connor asked. Oh God. Alec and LB were just waiting to see or hear if anything was going to get worse. However, they thought that if there was actually killing going on, they probably wouldn't hear that much noise. I feel like we need to go investigate, Alec, LB insisted. Yeah, you're probably right. Come on, let's go. Alec and LB began heading that way when they heard a very loud cracking sound. What was that? LB said. Then there was another crack. Alec? Crack. 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 The cracks were getting louder and were speeding up fast. Alec? The cracking noise kept speeding up until it became soft and smooth. And then there was a brief silence. Boom! Oh God, Alex said. Was that? LB couldn't finish after he was interrupted by 2 cannon shots heard around the arena. Oh no, that's not good. Connor and Lucy just stood there in complete shock. 30 seconds ago, they were looking to help Stray stick down from a tree, from the top of the tree with Kenzie there to help and maybe add herself to the team. Now the tree's on the ground and both Shreysta and Kenzie are dead. Connor slowly walked over to the tree confused while Lucy was deep in thought. She tried to wrap her head around what just happened in front of her, but the only thing she could think about was how perfect of an opportunity this was to get rid of Connor. It was to save her niece after all. We have to tell Alec and LB, Connor pleaded. Why? Lucy asked. They probably heard the tree fall and they definitely heard the cannon shots. They said to worry about them after sunset. It's barely sunrise. There are to get out of here and we're dropping like flies. We have to act now. Connor wasn't taking no for an answer. Connor tried walking away, but Lucy wouldn't let him. She kept blocking him every direction he went. What are you doing? If you don't want to go, fine. Then get out of my way. Connor, we need to talk. So what? You think we should just stand here and do nothing? LB sneered. No, stop. I didn't say that. I was trying to get his thoughts straight now. A lot of things that weren't supposed to happen just happened, and it left Alec in circles. I just got to figure out what our next plan of attack is going to be. Dude, 2 more people are dead. The only thing there is to figure out is whether we go back and check on them and say screw it. Let's get the fuck out of here. I agree, but we need to figure out which is better. Alec calmed LB down a little bit. He knew all this chaos and commotion is exactly what BK wanted. 2 people died for sure, correct? I heard 2 cannon shots. Okay, so did I. That means there are 5 people remaining. We're here, so the other 3 over there are some combination of Connor, Lucy, Shreysta, Kenzie, Debbie, Tegan. That doesn't really narrow it down at all. No, but if we do some logical deducing, Connor and Lucy and Shreysta would realistically all be alive at camp. If they heard the tree fall, they would want to prepare for a possible ambush. So the 2 that died could have been Kenzie, Debbie, or Tegan. Or something happened at the camp and the tree falling down killed Connor and Lucy while Shreysta was looking for people. Help! Can someone help me? Alec and LB turned around towards the shouting. Oh my God, Tegan! The 2 of them sprinted over towards Tegan. He was sitting up against a rock holding his left knee. Tegan, are you all? Oh my God, what is that thing? Alex said, almost vomiting. I got an infection. It looks better than it feels, Tegan said calmly. Alec was anything but calm. Here, LB, take the first aid kit and help him out. I gotta take a walk. Oh my God, that is disgusting. Here, let me help, LB insisted. How did this happen? It's fake. It's not real. It's fake. Why is it fake? They're going to kill my mom unless I kill someone. You understand, right? Yeah, those bastards have my sister. Were you planning on killing Alec? I don't know. He convinced me if we work together, we can get out of this. But I think he's getting more and more delusional. I have a proposal. No, you're crazy. You're absolutely crazy, Connor said, slowly backing away from Lucy. She was shedding some tears. They're going to kill her. I can't let that happen, Connor. The hell you won't. We can get out of here and save her together, Connor promised. He didn't seem to think that Lucy believed him. You need to understand it's nothing personal. It's just to save her, Lucy said, lunging at him with the machete. Connor tripped and fell, but fell far enough to not get touched by the machete. He got up and ran. Stay the hell away from me. Connor, don't make this any harder than it needs to be, Lucy yelled. She wasn't catching up to him, but she was staying close. Please, Connor, don't be the reason she dies. We can save her. Connor kept running. If he looked back, she would gain on him. They had been running for a couple minutes now. Connor felt like this was where his cardio would give him the advantage. That plus adrenaline made Connor feel like he could run away for a while, at least long enough to get out of Lucy's sight. Unfortunately, she seemed to be in shape too. Connor kept navigating through the landscape with Lucy closely tailing behind. He was starting to get into the unfamiliar part of the arena where one wrong turn can kill him. Lucy kept fighting, however. Every time Connor thought he had lost her, there she was again, trailing him by just a smidge. Connor knew if he was going to survive Lucy, he needed to make a risky maneuver. She had told him how she tricked Cullen into his death, and Connor didn't want to die by being outsmarted. As he thought about an escape route, he came across a very large pit with a seemingly endless bottom. Across the pit was safety, but it was a rather large pit. He would need to get a running head start if he wanted to any chance of jumping over the pit. He took a gander at Lucy's position and back at the pit. His choices were clear: die because you're trapped, or maybe die because you tried to escape. The decision was made. He turned and hopped over some logs and rocks back towards Lucy. Lucy saw Connor approaching closer. Was he trying to make this easier for her? What's his play? Connor stared at Lucy for a couple more seconds, took a deep breath, and ran straight for the pit. Alec had luckily avoided any vomiting that had occurred. The fact he had made it into the final five was a miracle in itself due to his particularly weak stomach. He witnessed 3 people die within the first few hours, never mind the massive storm that killed several people. Maybe it was the rush of being alive while basically everyone else was dying that kept him from thinking about how gross all these dead bodies were. Maybe that's why BK now saw him as a threat. The thing that was considered his weakness hadn't bothered Alec up to this point. But with so few numbers remaining, Alec saw the light at the end of the tunnel, which he thought led him to let his guard down. Alec slowly made his way back over to where he left LB and Tegan. They were so close to the finish line. He could practically taste it. He saw something in BK no one within this arena has seen: vulnerability. BK had weaknesses, and for the first time since the games began, and maybe since BK's rise to power, he had found them. Alec just needed everyone else to see what he saw. His train of thought was quickly interrupted when he noticed LB and Tegan fighting, and it wasn't because of an argument. Alec ran over to break the two of them up. What the hell are you guys doing? Are you out of your minds? He's gonna kill our families. Tegan barely managed to get out. He had scratches and bruises everywhere. We need to save them. LB struggled to stand. He too looked worse for the wear. So the best you two could come up with is a fight to the death? What the hell are you thinking? If one of us dies, we can save the other's family member, LB said. It's a risk we were willing to take, Tegan added. Both of you, knock it off. We, like all of us, we are getting out of here. And we are going to take down BK. Not one of us, all of us. You are playing the exact game he wants us to play. We can't show him he's in control. But Alec, Tegan said, he is. In control of you guys, yeah? But if we work together, he can't control us. So we're going to walk down to camp, figure out who the hell is still alive, and we're going to... Alec couldn't finish his thought before he heard another cannon shot. They were down to 4. Son of a bitch. Alec shook his head. When he thought that maybe the best way to stop BK was to win these games and go solo, he was only half being serious. But maybe he needed to be 100% serious. And then he heard a loud groan, and then a second cannon shot. He turned around and saw Tegan laying on the ground with a knife in his back while LB was standing on top of him. I'm sorry, Alec. I needed to save her. So you killed him while he wasn't even looking? I needed to save my sister. Your sister would be ashamed of you. You talk this big game of fighting for your loved ones with honor, willing to sacrifice yourself to save them. Then you kill Tegan with his back turned. Alex scowled. You are a disgrace. LB looked shell-shocked. He thought he would feel relieved when this job was done, but instead he felt worse. You're right. Kill me. I have to pay for what I've done to Tegan and to Jess. Oh, for God's sakes. Alec mumbled and rolled his eyes before slapping LB across the face. Look at me. I don't care what has happened since we've stepped foot in here. You are still my best friend, and we are getting out of this together to stop BK. Do you hear me? And fuck whatever blackmail or threats BK decides to throw at us. I'm calling his bluff. And If we're going to die in here, he's going to have to kill us himself. Capiche? I'll be nodding in approval. Good. Now, the two of us are going to march down back to camp and see which fucker is still alive. BK slowly got up from his bed. That night of sleep was desperately needed. The best part of waking up is he didn't have a burning need to frantically go check what had happened in his absence. BK took his time waking up and getting ready for work. Good morning, sir. Ricardo greeted him in the entranceway to the booth. How did you sleep? Great, actually. I slept great, BK said as he was being handed a cup of coffee. Oh, thank you. He took a sip. Oh, that's good. Anyways, how did last night go? Any good news? Ricardo looked at some of the other workers before responding. Sir? What happened, Ricardo? A whole lot, sir. I think you're going to want to hear it. Well, BK begged, fill me in already.